We can't necessarily make any decisions we have to be in an actual posted open meeting to make decisions, but this way it just shows that we didn't make decisions. So, or do any vote, take any action items. So can we start with everybody introducing themselves? I am Jennifer Saunders. I am one of the 3 Fergus County Commissioners. My district is more the Grass Range end of the county, that direction. Travis, you want to go next?
I'm Travis Wilson, your newly elected guy. I'm from Minnesota and District, what am I, 3?
Yeah.
Catching on.
That happens for all of us that first year.
I'm Thomas Peterson. I joined the board here last fall.
Matt Plagans, and I'm new to the board a couple weeks ago.
Wiggins?
Plagans,
I'm sorry.
Mike Huber.
Been here since the inception.
Robert.
I'm Kayleen Patton. I'm currently the chairperson president of the Farm in the Dell.
Vicki Plugins, board member. Lisa Hahn, board member since spring.
Okay.
Danielle Redish, and I'm the secretary on the board.
All right. So I guess the reason that I asked to visit with you guys today is, as you, I probably know, we have been approached by the BLM as a county. They need a place to build 2 bunkhouses, they call them. They are 10-bedroom structures with a bathroom facility, laundry facility, kitchen. And it's where when their fire crews have some time off, they go and stay there for a break. I don't understand all the legalities of the BLM, but they can't own land and they can't own the building. And for some reason with this particular build, they couldn't lease from a private property owner either. So they had to find a government entity that would work with them. I don't understand how all this stuff happens with the money other than we build the structure for them, but they give us how it's to be built, and then they kind of pay us as it's being built. That makes sense. Reimburse us for the cost of building the building. And then they would lease that building for us for a long term. I don't know if it's like a 50-year lease, a 100-year lease, the building and the land it sits on. What I understand right now is there's no outbuildings, there's no big parking lot, it's just the 2 structures. We started talking to them, first of all, about areas up around the airport, and they weren't interested in any area around up there because they didn't want to be by the airport. So the only other little piece of property that is big enough that the county owns is that we looked at that corner there, up next to County Road. You guys all know the area that we're looking at. And then we start jumping through all the preliminary hoops. And I apologize that I didn't call and give you guys a heads up that we were going to dig those the test holes to see if it is feasible to put in the septic systems there for 2 10-bedroom structures, because we couldn't go to step 2 until they even knew that. So I still don't know for sure if this is something that could potentially happen there. I am finding, and I'm sure Kayleen knows this very well, the wheels turn very slowly, and the communication system is terrible. We're actually the person that we've been dealing with. I'm not even sure she's a BLM employee. So we deal with her, and it's been very frustrating that we haven't had any clear answers or clear way. But we just felt like we were at the point that we needed to visit with you guys about your lease. Because we're not gonna move ahead without feeling like you guys are okay and on board with us, taking that parcel, that triangle basically out of your lease, from Farm in the Dell. So one of my first questions is, have you guys been utilizing that piece of ground?
So it is our backup, just in case we cannot build in the bottom because of groundwater. So
Okay,
that's the only concern that we have,
okay, okay,
or the main concern, I should say.
okay. So that is so we need to make sure then that your site down in the bottom is gonna work,
And the other big concern we have is the bridge being rated as low as it is.
right?
Because if we can't bring stuff across there, it's kind of hard to build down there. In the bottom.
Right. I shouldn't say this out loud, but I was having a meeting Tuesday with the lady from Northrop Grumman that's doing the missile sites, and they're looking for goodwill projects. And I said, well, we have this bridge. I don't know if anything will come of that.
Has that been a kind of an issue, maybe on the books of replacing that? Are
When
we
you-
talking the one that old cement bridge
Yeah,
coming into there?
I don't think it's cement.
It's
Yeah.
wooden and steel,
Structures.
but going back down into the port barn.
Got it.
Oh, going down.
is that what you call a span bridge?
Yeah.
Span,
I
yeah,
think it's only rated
On the
for,
county road I was talking where you come in.
okay. But the one down there on the farm, I believe it's only rated for, is it 12 tons or 12,000 pounds?
10 tons.
10 tons, okay. So we can't even get garbage services down in there.
right. And that was they just changed that rating, right? Because I know it's just for the renter down there. It's been an issue that you can't get that in there. And I would say a bigger concern is, can you get a fire truck in there? You can.
Emergency
No,
services are exempt,
yeah.
correct?
I don't know that.
I believe so.
I don't
I
know.
would
You
believe
could
it
get
should
in
be.
there, not via the bridge, but you could get in there, you know.
Might depend on who's driving.
Across the.
And I can just say that with all of our other bridges in the county that need to be replaced, right now with only one residence back there, it's hard to justify the cost of putting a new bridge in. But definitely something we need to, so it's per axle, isn't it, Danielle? That rating, what's the sign say? I've looked at it and always said I was gonna write it down. So 17 ton for 2. 20 for
But the garbage.
2 and a
trucks,
trailer.
Nope, that's what started the whole thing.
garbage truck, you know,
An empty cement truck weighs 60-some thousand pounds, so I would assume a garbage truck's probably not too far off that.
tell him to go there before he
There
starts
you
dumping.
And that is something that, have you, because I had driven and tried to look at approaches from the other way of possibilities for getting construction stuff through there. And Carl has a contact with the one neighbor that he thought would, of course, it's weather dependent when you start to cross a hayfield. But, and did you say you'd also talk to butchers, Kayleen, about coming in from the other direction with,
So I talked to butchers, and that was gonna be more of an issue because there's about 2 weeks out of the year that we can actually go across our hayfield. The other neighbor there, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, Donsbach, would be willing to possibly willing to do a temporary easement. Just for us to be able to build, however, that doesn't really help us in the long run.
right? And we do need to make sure that it's accessible for fire and ambulance
Right.
with your house across there,
And buses and everything else too, for taking them elsewhere.
right?
I suppose we get into the floodplain down there for culverts.
Yes,
Because they don't like culverts.
it's right over Big Spring Creek.
Right.
So
Okay. So we need to try to get figured out pretty quickly if it's feasible to build your houses down there. Are you looking at one or two?
We will start with one.
But in the
looking at-
long
Looking
plan-
at the need of people that are homeless, I think that can increase. That obviously depends on funding and the need. but-
Right.
But we
right.
can potentially have more.
And Danielle put together a subdivision packet of our latest information that I was gonna give you guys today. And you know that we're contracted with Staley Engineering now. So some of this material is from Staley. And this is really confusing. It calls the one form insufficient subdivision application forms, but it's his checkbooks to go through and say, this is what you need after you've turned in. So I just wanted to have that for you guys today so that you could look at that. And our county, the fee sheet is here too. So, so whatever we can do to help to try to get it figured out. If your houses can be there, but so if your houses can go on the bottom, are you guys comfortable with us, putting the bunkhouse up above? If, again, I know we're hearing already from folks in the Fox Hollow subdivision, not wanting it there. And we obviously, any decisions we make have to go through a public meeting process, and the public has the opportunity to come in and speak to us about their concerns, and we take those into consideration.
we have to come
I'm not
together as a
prepared to
board and
answer that
make a
because-
decision. We're just hoping to get information on what we're making a decision on today, I guess.
Yeah. Have you guys heard anything from the subdivision about if you build your houses up there? Because one gentleman was his whole thing was that we were ruining his view. I just don't want you guys to have the same, the aquifer.
Yeah, I prefer that we can take away from his.
Aquifer view and traffic. So I hope you can build in the bottom because you may get the same pushback.
Oh, just a quick question. The triangle that you're talking about, how many acres is that? And do you have like the exact? I mean, at least
I think
close.
that patch
Right
is
at 20 acres.
22 acres.
Is that
So are you looking at the whole pasture or just a portion of the pasture?
Um,
That's just a question I would like to know.
I wish I could definitively answer that because that would require them having made complete
Yeah.
commitments from us. Right now, this is what I have given to the lady we're working with and the folks from the BLM for the area, but then where they actually put the buildings in there and I don't know that.
When did
'Cause-
you guys start talking to the BLM on this?
When did we?
Yeah,
before I?
Well, so I will tell you that Barbara Burns started for some reason talking to Scott before she talked to us. My first email from her is December 2023. And that's when we were talking to them more about airport area. It shifted to this area this summer. And that's when I started getting the steps from them of what they would need to know. And I'll tell you, we really did not. We drug our feet about the whole thing to start with, but they're really desperate to find a place like this. And I also see the positives of it for Lewistown to have 20 people in Grass Range or Grass Range. I wish that we could put them in Grass Range. I'd take them in a heartbeat. That are gonna buy groceries and eat meals and go out and shop, and plus having more fire crew right here in central Montana. But when they weren't interested in our first areas we thought of that are in more of a commercial area, we kind of dropped it, and then they could not find anything else. So we got a little,
So if
More-
I'm understanding you right, the BLM, the only way they can do this is government to government. You said that they can't seek out a private.
no, because we had several private landowners that would have been willing to lease to them, and they couldn't do that for some reason. Because I know their BLM building out there was built on private property and leased to them by a private individual. So,
Yeah, with their offices.
Right.
Yeah, that's a private. That's, I mean, it's kind of conflicting.
yeah,
Why they can do that and.
Less acreage, I suppose.
I have no idea.
And-
I'm very grateful I don't work for the BLM. Sorry, Kayleen.
I don't either.
Are
I
they,
work for 'em.
are they still actively engaging this, or has it been a while?
I talked to Barbara the last time, in December, before Christmas. Have not heard back from her since the holidays. And that was when I sent her the test results from our sanitarian. And by the way, if you do end up doing your house up there, that work has been done. Because she sent, Barb Kingery sent me her full report. She was a little concerned about the water table up there, so there would have to be, it's not just going to be a normal build, but then when the BLM engineer looked at it, he felt like it was just, it's level across with that ditch is the gravel she's saying that she was concerned about. So, I mean, we would just hand you guys over that report, that initial study from the sanitarian. And, she did think it was feasible there to do a septic system for 20 bedrooms and 2 laundry rooms and 2 kitchens.
Do you know what, so if I'm understanding this, the BLM will fund the construction,
Yes,
and then when they're done with that, the county will own the facilities. And the BLM will then pay a lease amount to the county.
yes,
And long term.
long term.
So you really don't have a whole lot more information than that. BLM's waiting until they know they can actually build there then.
Right. And I will tell you that there are 2 local gentlemen that have probably spurred along the upper hierarchy more because they want to get it done one way or another. But yeah, no, I have not, I think for next thing we're supposed to get is an as-built. And so that's when we would start getting bids from engineering and construction to actually build the buildings.
Okay.
And we do not have those at this point in time.
So what you would need from us then, to move forward on it is just approval to modify the lease to exclude that acreage.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't want to do that till we know you can build your houses in the bottom. And yeah,
Has the BLM provided any kind of dollar amount, what the lease would be? Do you have any information on that?
no, they've told us that they allude to, not an amount on the lease. They have alluded to some costs on the build and the amount of money that they have available to build the 2 bunkhouses. And that's something that we will be very careful about to make sure that they give us that amount before we start spending any money. Because we don't want to build something and then they don't have the money to pay us for building it. So that's something we have to be really cautious about.
So for us, checking to see if we can put a septic in down below. We have to do the, moderate, do the test pit for the high water mark during the year.
Mhm.
So in all honesty, it depends on whether it's irrigation or, snow melt. If it's snow melt, it'll be June, we'll have the results back, June or July. If it's irrigation, it'll be October at the earliest that we'll hear back on that.
Okay.
So we were kind of getting the ball rolling to have that done this year. I know they did the test pit before to check for groundwater, and that was clear,
Oh, good.
so. But we're close enough to the creek there that we're likely, which if we did a bigger subdivision there, or however we go about it. If we avoid the DEQ, we might not need to do that test pit. But.
And you're
it's-
talking the test pit for sanitation, for the septic system.
But that's gonna be up in the air until we actually get into discussing that further with sanitary and everything else.
Have you talked with Barb Kingery yet?
We did do a mini subdivision pre-application meeting. That was last spring.
Yeah, and I see you've paid the, yeah,
Something
I,
that We did, and now, I mean, that's. Yeah. Too long, I think, but, yes, and Barb was in on that
okay.
meeting.
And was Staley in on that meeting?
Yes, that was with Staley and Barb.
Okay. What were their feelings about it?
Well, at that meeting, we didn't know who owned the bridge or the road leading to the farm. So they said, don't move forward until you figure that out, because they didn't have any documentation for it.
So I need to
I
check
think-
that.
I think it's all been,
Yeah, I think
confirmed.
Carl
How you
did confirm it
sent
was
the
county,
minutes.
but
Yeah,
wrote
everything
both,
was-
right?
In the lease, it states it's counties.
The road down the bridge.
Correct.
so Barb just sort of talked about, yeah, the water testing that we would need to do.
I think the lease also says that the lower bridge remains the county's
Yes.
Yes.
It does.
responsibility to maintain.
It does.
So the earliest that you will know is June.
Possibly, when
Okay.
you talk to sanitarian, we're looking at possibly starting the subdivision process. Pretty soon here, and once we get the ball rolling on that, we'll know a lot more.
Okay.
Like I said, if we're going with over a 20-acre subdivision, then we don't have to worry so much about DEQ. We work a lot more locally. On all of that. So it's possible that if there are records from nearby down there, we might be able to use those to avoid having to do that test. It's up in the air. We will know more, hopefully, fairly soon.
Okay. And you would use the same well as you already drilled, right? Okay,
Which it's a good well.
okay. Okay, so potentially June. Okay,
So Jennifer, are you guys subject to the same subdivision rules as like we are?
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just really concerned about the public feedback we're gonna get. I'm also concerned for you guys that you may get the same feedback if you have to build up there.
Yeah,
So,
because if we get bad feedback on it and we don't do it, and then you guys wanna move up there, you're gonna get the same thing
Yeah.
we got.
so I'm gonna cross my fingers your house is okay down in the bottom. Plus, you're close to the activities, the barn, where you want to be. You're out of the wind more, and there's so many pluses to being down there. Yeah,
Is there a main point of contact in town for the BLM for this project?
No, I don't really think locally. The locals that have talked to me were kind of stepping out of their. I will check with them to make sure it's okay if I share their name. Is that okay? Because the way the hierarchy of the BLM works, they're all supposed to very carefully stay in their lanes. And right now it's supposed to be this Barb is our primary contact. And
The
so,
reason I asked, I just. Things are with current administration budgets, like, was even the feasibility of this thing
Mhm.
getting off, I mean. We might blow on hot air here, is it really even fun?
Sorry,
Squirrel.
got distracted.
oh, literally squirrel.
That's why I asked, because they would be able to say. Yeah, we think it actually is gonna get funded, or they might be like. We have no idea.
Well, I do know that when I sent Barb all of the results from Barb Kingery, she said, dependent on federal shutdown, I will be able to get back to you in January. So, but we did not have a federal shutdown, not saying that now federal funding is all shut down. So, yeah, I wish I could give you a clear black and white schedule of events and but it's been really frustrating trying to work with them and get clear answers in a timeline.
Seems like a good deal. County. They're gonna pay for the construction, you'll own it, and then they're gonna pay you to lease it.
Yeah. I just wish we could find another piece of property.
Yeah,
And one thing about it, if we get to the point of an as-built, we'll know exactly how much room they need because they've never really been clear on that.
Could you,
Acreage
could
wise.
you, let's say this location. Because of the public feedback, or at least there are people in here that. Could the county. Go buy a piece of private land somewhere, and I mean. Do it that way?
Maybe. I will tell you that we'd probably also really get a lot of kickback if we, yeah. Yeah,
So-
because a lot of people weren't happy with us and now it hasn't worked out. So they're really not happy with us. We bought that building on 4th and Juneau to move our health department into. Had initial look at the building looked good and sound and got some initial costs for renovating it into a public health building. Purchased the building for less than it was, got a good deal on the building. But then when we actually got in folks that renovate buildings for clinical medical purposes, it was between anywhere, I think the low cost was 2.2 up to $6 million to renovate the building. So now we're trying to sell that building to look at a different one that's already set up as a clinic. So the taxpayers aren't happy about us owning property, and especially when we don't actually have our offices in there yet. So I don't know. I mean, it's certainly an
I just hate
idea
to
we
see
could
the
look at.
project Through summer. Housing. With
Right.
seasonal workforce, firefighters, and it's like you don't wanna. Nobody wants to not see that go through, I think that's a good
Yeah.
course of action. It's kind of weird that they can only go government to government.
Yeah. Because we actually had, I think, 3 different referrals to them for people that would work with them, private entities. And they said they couldn't work with private individuals. So,
on the bridge, I understand right now it's kind of hard to justify doing anything on that. In the event that we started building that house down there, is that a point where it might actually be justifiable if we have 6 permanent residents down there and all the workers going across. I guess what are the steps on getting a word on that, I guess?
First of all, let me get a cost from John because we do purchase pre-engineered bridges
Okay.
that are a bit less expensive than building a bridge from scratch. And you don't have to pay an engineer because they're pre-engineered. And get a cost from him of what one of those would cost and what is the tonnage allowed
Okay.
on those bridges. So we know definitively, how much money we're looking at for that.
Well, I know they've been talking about this bridge. I've been talking with John. I think it's Third Street. Third or Fourth. And it's upwards, it's 130,000. I think for a cement slab bridge. So wide, 24 wide, by 30.
I don't know, I thought it would be, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, yours would be a giant.
Can't remember if it's 40 foot or 45.
Right.
And it's a 1-car bridge wide, which is kind of like anytime you go into upgrading, they probably won't let us replace it with
Yeah,
what was there.
Well, because you would say you would have 6 places people live down there, you would have to have a double, for probably your fire, ambulance.
yeah.
All that stuff.
They did bring the ambulance across one year during,
Yeah, we did. And then they used to bring the dump truck across for many years too.
That was before it changed though, right?
Right, that was before
Right.
somebody
They just
did whatever.
passed an old wood bridge.
And it's steel frame wood deck.
I'm still not sure where the new tonnages came from.
the state comes through
Why-
annually and inspects all of our bridges. And then they tell us what our tonnage is. And it changes with the age of the bridge.
Bridge isn't new either.
That's, they probably want to, how old it is.
Yeah.
We'll probably meet and then get back to you. So.
Okay.
yeah, we all kind of agree, we just wanted to listen.
Yeah.
We didn't really get into a negotiating
Right.
discussion today, because we're all learning, but,
So Jennifer, the only question I would have is, do you have a proposal for us? That you guys are thinking of?
With other changes on the lease,
So we have something to discuss.
no, we had not discussed any other change on the lease. So are you thinking kind of like, cause right now, there's the actual lease.
so right now, kind of the amendment proposal is to remove
That from the
essentially
lease.
that past, between Woven and Creek and Boylan. If we do. Yeah, and it.
And either way-
It's an even break in that. No, anything like the whole thing,
Either way,
Anything less makes the rest of it useless.
Useless.
and either way, we wait until we know who we can build down below.
Because you.
Right.
They don't do anything with that chunk there.
No.
Not really.
Well,
Yeah,
We
we do.
lease it
We
up.
have time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Matt Irish has grazed that for him kind, then the fencing.
But it sounds like the water's been a problem for him for. Yeah,
Yeah,
The water.
there's no. The water that flows through that canal is kind of, the gate's controlled by. Like falls right in.
Right.
But I think our plan says the farm is to continue to make improvements and look at that as. Potential source. It's not like we don't, we're not valuing it.
No, it's not at all.
And right now, your lease payment has been in-kind work, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Or improvements to the farm, like I think the one I just sent in, I sent it to Ross
Is this-
because I did not have email, so I asked him to forward it. But before I leave, maybe I can get your email and Travis's email so that
You
when I
bet.
send stuff, I'm getting all three of you.
yeah.
Cause I didn't think yours was the same one, the MT and whatever, so.
No, and we
Yeah.
just did, it used to be we had a commissioner's address that went to all three of us. But since we did our domain change, that doesn't
Okay,
work
so I
anymore.
need to get that because I sent the last invoice to Ross that shows where we are.
Okay.
And I think we're
Sounds good.
still in the green, the 30-some thousand.
So
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. And you guys aren't affected by the well house that goes to the house,
So
are
that's-
you?
that's.
We are not having anything to do with that well house.
Well, we are gonna be rebuilding that well house in
Oh.
the spring,
So,
cause it's,
Yeah, that's why we did not use it and did our own. We are totally separate. from
there
it.
it is.
okay, yeah, it's, I went down and looked at it and crawled through it last spring and it's patched together to say the
Yeah,
least.
it is.
Yeah, so we're gonna,
Not north side of it.
yeah. But it's easier in the long run for you guys to be completely separate from that, so that was a good thing.
Okay, no, we are. There goes the can of oil.
And I brought my whole packet of house stuff for you.
Do you need to stop?
Oh,